Good afternoon, Virgin Islanders. I'm Andy Smith, the Chief Executive Officer and Executive Director of the Virgin Islands Water and Power Authority. I'm here to talk to you today about the recent power outage on the island of St. John. First and foremost, I want to apologize and offer my sincerest apologies for the outages that we've experienced. We know the extent of inconvenience and disruption that causes in the lives of Virgin Islanders. I can also assure you that the men and women of WAPA mobilized immediately when that outage, or quite frankly, any outage occurs. The crews have been working nonstop throughout the night to restore service to the island of St. John. As I stand here today, all but approximately 10 customers have service restored on the island of St. John. What I'd like to do is provide a background and a timeline for how the events of the last 2 days unfolded. We experienced an outage in the subsea cable that supplies St. John from St. Thomas yesterday. Crews immediately dispatched to troubleshoot that outage and determine first that they had to pump water out of the manholes. As we all know, we've had a significant amount of rain in the territory over the last several weeks, most recently in the last couple of days. Those manholes had filled with water. Pumping those manholes out was further complicated by the fact that we were still having water runoff coming into the manholes. So crews had to actually barricade the manholes with sandbags before they could actually effectively pump the manholes out. Once the manholes are pumped out, crews can then access the manholes and start to troubleshoot the electrical cable that's in those manholes. That process is a lengthy process. Crews eventually found a splice in the cable that had failed. And a splice is simply where two pieces of the cable or ends of cable have been connected. There are several of those throughout our system because you can't have a cable that runs miles and miles and miles. The first splice was repaired. Repairing a splice takes approximately 4 hours. So that splice was repaired. It was an attempt to re-energize the cable. We had a second fault on the cable. So crews went back to troubleshooting. They found a second splice that had been damaged. That was repaired and service was restored a little after 4 a.m. this morning. Once service was restored, feeder 9E, there are 3 feeders on the island of St. John, feeder 9E failed. Crews immediately began to troubleshoot that. They were able to fairly quickly energize an underground section that feeds Cruise Bay up to Starfish Market. Crews then undertook an effort to disconnect some of our equipment so that we could do what's called backfeeding electricity to the section on 9E that did not have service via an overhead section. That was completed around 8:30 this morning, and as I mentioned, that comes down to a very small number of customers who are now out. Crews are actively troubleshooting the outage on that remaining underground section. One of the things I wanted to talk about, because we're talking a lot about undergrounding of electrical infrastructure here, and it's a strategy that's being deployed throughout the territory. There are very good things about undergrounding electrical infrastructure, much more hardy in storms because it's not wind damage and things like that don't impact it. However, the trade-off is that when we do have an outage on an underground system, the troubleshooting and repair of that outage is a longer process than it would typically otherwise be if we had overhead lines that we were repairing. That's the info as we know it today. We'll continue to update the community as we work to restore the last remaining outages on the island of St. John. And again, I want to apologize again to the community. We understand the disruption that this causes, but I also want to thank the men and women of WAPA who worked throughout the night to get service restored to the island of St. John. That concludes my comments, and I appreciate everybody taking the time out of their busy day to join us. Thank you.